UC Davis football year. It's a little bit of a different story. We really loved our visits with Coach Hawkins, but Jim Les, an old friend, a familiar name to so many of you with our Sacramento Kings from 90 to 94, I believe. Sweet outside shot and so much more. There was no doubt if you watched him play, he was going to be a coach if he wanted to when he grew up, because it's one of the higher IQ players we've ever seen. So we'll try to keep up with our visits each week with him. Coach, it's Dave, it's Jason. Thanks so much for getting up and joining us. Good morning.
Dave, Jason, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It's scary when you say those years, 90 to 94. It seems so long ago, doesn't it?
We have a lot more gray hair now, don't we, Coach?
It's a sign of intelligence. I keep telling people. I'm not sure my players buy it, but that's what I'm telling them.
You know, we're going to talk every week, and we'll get to know you as UC Davis coach, which we already do, of course, and get to know the team. But, you know, for our first visit, I just wanted to, just start out with a generality. Obviously, you enjoy the job. But what is it specifically that you enjoy turning over these teams every year, seeing new faces, having new challenges? What is it that somebody who had a great career in the NBA, where do you get your happiness out of coaching these kids?
I think for me, Dave, it's the ability to mentor and build relationships and impact young people. I'm getting young men from 18 to 22, and they come from all different walks of life and different areas of the country, different areas of the world, different backgrounds. They grew up all differently, and the challenge of putting them together and building a team and some unity and some cohesiveness, but more importantly, to impact their life at such a crucial time. And, the best part of our job as coaches is when players move on and grow up and, they get families and kids, and they're still in contact with you, and they remember maybe some of the things or life lessons that you taught them, not just about basketball, but about life. I think those are the things that are special. And, at UC Davis, besides being, it's just a great academic institution. And fortunately, we've gotten just some unbelievable elite student athletes that I get to be around every day. So, someone once told me if you can find something that you really love to do and get someone to pay you for it, that's the perfect job. And that's what I feel like I have.
Coach, I'm sure too, over time, you said some of those guys have stayed in contact and reached out, and maybe there's some that do on a regular basis, but it probably hits home when maybe it's someone that hasn't reached out in a year or two and then calls you or hits you up for something that you go, wow, I did have a connection. I did have an impact. I am making a formation in that person's life. That's got to be really rewarding.
It is. And, coaching is not just about winning game. It's about impacting people. And, I've been fortunate to, in my life, I just know of all the coaches going back to high school, college, pros, who impacted me and taught me a lot of life lessons and just had a great influence. And this is a chance to pay that forward. And I know sometimes, because part of coaching is pushing people and sometimes making them uncomfortable to get them to reach for greater heights. And at the time, I remember when my college coach, who had a great impact on me, Dick Versace, you guys will remember him. He was NBA coach, and he was a announcer for a long time in the NBA. And I didn't always like when he pushed me and when he drove me, but there's no way I would have reached and gotten to the places I went to without him seeing in me something that I didn't see and pushing me to be something that I wasn't necessarily ready for as a young college kid. So, and that's not always fun to go through, but I do remember, once I finally made it and got to that, echelon of basketball, finding him and giving him a big hug and like, thank you for pushing me and driving me. So that's part of the equation too.
UC Davis head basketball coach Jim Les joining us. And Coach, that kind of leads to my next question before we get to the actual team itself this year. It's kind of a two-parter. Number one, in addition to Coach Versace, who were some of the coaches you ran into in the NBA, maybe whether you were coached by them or just had experience with, that would be kind of your ancestral coaching mentors, if you will? And then also, I'm curious, when did you first start thinking, I want to do this for a living when I'm done playing?
Well, for me, the couple that stand out, one was, and it was a two-parter because I was there when I was with the Jazz when Frank Layden was there for half a season, then retired, and Jerry Sloan took over. And those two guys, vastly different personalities, but really impactful on me. Frank Layden just found a way to, in pressure situations, pressure moments, to keep things light and keep guys happy and building relationships, and was really concerned about you and your family and what you were about, and building just a personal connection. And then Jerry Sloan came in with, and here I was a Chicago kid, so I watched Jerry Sloan as a kid, as a Bulls fan, and now I get to play for him, and just his level of intensity and competitiveness was just off the charts. And I love the fact how, and I was back then rosters were 12, so I was the 12th guy on the team, and John Stockton, Karl Malone were 1 and 2, and he didn't treat anybody any differently, and that was a huge reminder to me. Part of being a coach is being able to help these young people through experiences. And I tell them all the time, hey, I've been there. I've been the guy who's been on the front of the bench. I've been the guy who's been on the back of the bench, and that helps me relate to my players. But those two guys were really good. And then Lenny Wilkins, I was fortunate to play for him in Atlanta, and just an unbelievable communicator. Not a man of many words, but the few words that when he did speak were very impactful. And that was also a good teaching lesson for me. A lot of times we're over talking as coaches, and we're over communicating, and he just picked his spots and was very impactful with his words. And that was really good for me as a player and now as a coach.
Well, Coach, as you now have knocked out the non-league portion of your schedule, starting league play this week, that's really where it really starts to ramp up. You feel like you guys are in the best position to be ready for a run at your league title?
Well, I think for us, the non-conference is always a learning situation. We play a relatively tough schedule and try and get a lot of different styles of play so we can be ready for our second season, which is the Big West Conference regular season. And Thursday, we got a heck of a matchup. So UC Santa Barbara comes to town, and if there's any basketball fans who want to see a really good college basketball game, come to UC Davis at 6 p.m. on Thursday, because you'll see two of the best, not just mid-major guards, but two of the best guards in the country. A.J. Mitchell for UC Santa Barbara is one of the best point guards in the country. He's on many people's draft boards. Really, really good player. Was the player of the year last year. And the runner-up to the player of the year is Elijah Pepper, who's a guard for UC Davis, who's just became our all-time leading scorer at UC Davis. He was 4th in the country last year in scoring. He's in the top 10 as we speak. And those two guys will be playing for pay here down the road pretty soon. But you want to see a great college basketball game and some really good guards come out to UC Davis on Thursday night.
There you go. That's Coach Jim Les, who will join us each and every week throughout the basketball season. And I'm sure not only will we learn more and more about the program and where it's headed, but also we'll trade some, well, maybe not trade war stories, I would say. Jim's the only one who has them, but we'll hear some stories, as well as we can talk just about anything basketball with Coach Les. Coach, we really appreciate your time getting up this early. Thank you so much.
Dave, Jason, thank you. I'm a big fan. So you guys keep up the great work. I love listening to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a promo right there. Jim Les, a big fan of us.
Yeah.
I mean,
how about that? Let's end it right there.
The fanboying never get it's just the fan. Man, Jim Les was so awesome when he played too. Like he was such a bright spot in a dark time in Kings basketball history.
Every time, I mean, Jim's so great. He's awesome. There's one of the times when we've all been in those tournaments before, Dave. I played in one with him, and he was in my group. And I don't know, we're about 4 holes in. He goes, "Hey, do you mind? I noticed something in your swing. And he goes, I don't want to be that guy. I go, no, go ahead. And it was like one little tweak that for whatever reason that day, like I was incredible after that tweak.
Wow.
And so like literally that's probably been 15 years, Dave. And if I'm like having a rough day, I go, oh yeah, remember when Jim Les said, like, it's usually something with my top hand. And so if I'm just, I don't know, I'm sure it's mental, but if one of those days, like, man, I'm just not hitting the golf ball well at all. I go, oh yeah, let's put the top hand over a little bit more. And then for whatever reason, it seems like it works. So I just credit him for that forever.
And
always think of him for that.
He's one of those guys too. And there aren't that many that, like, if you're on the golf course, nobody likes to have corrections on the golf course.
Yeah.
But like if Jim Les is asking,
exactly,
you're like, yes, please, coach of anything.
Right.
Because normally you try to correct my golf swing on the course. I am not a happy camper. I'm not smiling, which would be the same look as my dog's poops before I had myself some American Pet Supreme Source Super Premium dog food. Bark, bark. I'm sorry, Jason. I stepped on your bark, bark. Go ahead.
Bark, bark.